Hello, I'm Kats, and welcome to today's video. So we are in the midst of the Tholen Foulbeard fusion, and of course this is the Summon Rush weekend, so we are going to be pulling some shards. Now, once again, I do have to eat crow a little bit because my predictions were slightly too low when it comes to the milestones in the Summon Rush. I was trying to give it some grace as far as like being a little bit harder than usual with the 3,000 and the 5,500 breakpoints, but apparently they wanted to go to Fabian tier. This is tied for the highest we've ever seen, being the 3,500 paired with the 6,100. So it's not, necessarily record breaking. We've seen it before, like I mentioned with Fabian, but nonetheless, it is still relatively high to go for the epic, all upwards of 12 sacreds plus some mystery shards, which is pretty darn intense. And as you might suspect, with my min-maxing approach, we are not going all the way out there. I know that, it can be somewhat lucrative to go there because you get to skip a bunch of events, namely dungeon divers, but just the way the dungeon divers are landing or overlapping with champion training this go round, it wasn't that difficult to complete at least the first dungeon divers. We'll see about the other two, but my plan is the same as usual to kind of go for the minimum here. So we're going to do 7 sacreds, 3,500 points to get us the fusion rare here, and along the way we get some pretty good stuff, get a decent amount of energy, 6-star normal uncommon glyph, and then some gems. So nothing crazy, but still nice rewards along the way. It always feels bad because like mythical tomes are something that I personally do need, but going all the way out to 10,000 points is kind of a stretch, especially during a fusion who's like okay for me, but probably won't see much play. But maybe faction wars, he might pair well as far as the DPS goes in the later stages with my Herndig. So decreased defense and the weaken might be pretty strong. Slap a Brogni with him, you get increased attack. So we'll see how that works. But anyways, hopping over to the portal, let's take a look at the overall shard count. My account at the moment, that is 630 on the ancients, 259 on the voids, 25 on the primals, and 55 on the sacreds, which of course we'll be dipping into today. And then for the progressive chance events, as we'll talk about in a bit, I'm not expecting to get a legendary today, but I decided to pick one anyways. This is about block buffs champions, and I already have a +4 Ugo, I already have a +4 Fanax, so I don't really need copies of either of them. And then Elisania is pretty useless aside from being a Lady Mikage epic, who I already fused to Lady Mikage, so I don't need her. So I just picked one just to pick one. But in terms of the block buffs legendaries, for me, like I don't have obviously the new guy. I don't have Firol, Gracchus. I don't have Gracchus, I don't have Firol, and I don't have Zaharis, but I don't really want any of them. I know Firol had, very, very strong ratings for the guy, especially for those high DPS, one-shot comps and/or like high-level Hydra comps, but he doesn't really fit synergistically, or like he doesn't fit perfectly into any of my existing Hydra teams. I'd have to kind of rework them, and I'm kind of happy with my teams at the moment, aside from a couple of swaps here and there. So I don't really want to work on that, on top of the fact that very, very unlikely 6.5% chance that if we got a legendary it would actually be the one you choose. So I'm not really too focused on this one, but I just wanted to pick one for you never know, just in case. But in my case, it came down to Mighty Uko and Lady Kimmy, both of which I have already, but pulling a duplicate would be used for faction guardians, and I opted for Shadowkin because I think it would be 10% attack for that one, which would power up my ninja, who I recently rebuilt, should mention, into a 6-piece merciless. So more attack for him is more damage. So that would be the goal there if we happen to get a legendary, which is of course unlikely. But as I hinted at before, let's take a look at my mercy tracker, and we can see that we are not in mercy, and 7 sacreds will not put us into mercy either. So the odds are very, very slim. The 1 in 16 chance that we get a legendary, hence my statement that we're probably not going to get a legendary today. At least I'm not expecting it. So that's where we are with mercy. So we'll be close, but not into mercy, which means we're not really in the optimal position for a future POGO event either. However, I do expect that this fusion will encompass 2x ancients, which you can see I'm also at 0, fresh off of mercy. So basically, I'm not expecting to get a legendary for the next couple of weeks here, aside from Tholen himself. But you never know, crazier things have happened. In terms of the wish list, Lady Kimmy, of course, would be nice, but overall, my top 3 would be a Poison Exploder, Molly Tankard, and Elva Autumnborn. And I kind of want to do a kind of special mention here because I didn't believe they would ever do it. But now that they kind of patched Poison Explosion, they felt more comfortable maybe introducing a new one. So when I say Poison Exploder, I will take any of the 3 because I really do want to build a Poison Explosion comp, even though it's kind of just relegated to Dragon at this point. But they added in Balar the Lost here, and he has a trip or a crit. As long as he crits on this A3, he can place 3 poisons, kind of like Tomb Lord. He can place 3 poisons on an AoE on everyone for 2 turns, and then this A2 here, he can instantly activate all poisons on all enemies. And from what I've seen, it actually means all of them, as opposed to some other people whose text is kind of misleading. He is a full poison detonation champion alongside Eleanor and Xavia. However, with the the leech is not that useful for at least my intent to use him in dragon. It's helpful, but it's not really necessary. And the poison sensitivity, it helps, but I have Theodore for that, so I don't really need it. But it is nice to have that on an A1, and the shield is nice to protect him a little bit. So again, I would take him. I will take any of the three, but he's definitely third on the list. Eleanor is definitely the best one still on paper, and so I'd prefer to have her if I had my pick of the litter. But again, I will take any of the three if the game is willing to give them to me. So the point there being that whenever in the future I do say Poison Exploder Champion as my number one, that would be any of those three, Eleanor, Xavia, or Balar, now added to the list. And of course, we are also going to get some epics along the way, so any duplicate epics for empowerment would be useful. So without further ado, let's dive into the shard pulls. We have 7 sacreds to pull, and let's get right into the action. We've got tons of space, we've got tons of cash, and honestly, we don't really need any good luck with this session. The goal is just to get the fusion rare. So 7 sacreds, here we go. Sacred number 1, epic number 1. This is Nazana, who is a decent champion. AoE decreased attack, ally protection to kind of protect your team, places a shield on her proportional to her HP, and then an AoE on the A1. So obvious candidate for a stun set in some instances, but I plan to build mine in a frost set for a specific iteration of stage 14 in Soulcross Hard in the Cursed City. So honorable mention there, but most people probably, a general purpose, you want to use her in a stun set if you plan to use her at all. Aox, they remember, pretty decent champion. For the longest time, I never used this guy, but he's come in handy in a couple of instances, mainly in the Cursed City, but also a little bit in hard mode faction wars. But AoE decrease attack and decrease crit rate, which can keep your team alive, take less damage, and bosses can't crit, or enemies can't crit. And then he has a pretty chunky heal depending on how many debuffs you have on the enemy target, whoever you target with this ability, and then some poisons on the A1. I wish this was a higher chance, but nonetheless, some poisons. I personally run him in a toxic set. His passive is pretty good too. He can extend debuffs when he's attacked. 2 sacreds down, 5 to go, or I should say 3 sacreds down, and 4 to go. But Quargon the Crowned, another kind of Cursed City-esque champion who's kind of decent, but this ability, it's nice when it works, but it's not nice when it doesn't work. So he can give you block debuffs if and increased defense if it's a champion who's more defensive based or support. But if you're an attack champion, he's going to give you increased attack and perfect will, which is still good. But if you wanted just a pure block buffs champion, he's not really quite it. And it's also on a 4-turn cooldown. So he's kind of a underwhelming champion in my opinion, but nonetheless, he can have some niche uses. Sacred number 4, Lodric Falconheart, one of the OG champions for Scarab King. On this ability here, he has a 2-turn duration shield on a 2-turn cooldown. Used to use him way back in the day, but he got replaced by the fusion for Lanatharil, who does it on a 3-turn cooldown, but also adds in the ally attack. But that is his claim to fame. That's 4 sacreds down, 3 to go. Let's see what else we can get. Another epic, and it is Old Gracchus. Old Gracchus, I have to say it in that way every time. But a triple hitter on the A1 with the leech, and then he has a decreased speed, a little bit of turn meter, and then he has here reduction, decreased attack. Perfect champion to help you progress in Fire Knight if that is where your area of struggle is, and definitely can work in in the Cursed City as well for those variants of Fire Knight, either form. And because he has here reduction, I do want to mention that he can be useful in Amius. However, he kind of forces him into an inimedial rotation of abilities, so you have to be a little bit careful with trying to use him there for here reduction. I've tried it and it hasn't really worked for my particular strategies and approaches to Amius, but I think it can work in certain instances. So 2 more sacreds to go, 5 down. I'm definitely expecting 2 epics. We have Aishma, whose only claim to fame is helping you fuse Lady Mikage. Unfortunate there. That's going to be a food champion on my account. Gracchus is also going to be for empowerment. And last we have Morag Bronzelock. Sweet. That is another epic for empowerment. We'll take it. She has a mini ally attack here. 2 random allies can grant next turn if someone is killed, but mainly useful in hard mode, in Centranos hard, Soulcross hard variations with Fire Knight in them. She can be useful for that mini ally attack. And then she has an AoE attack here with the Strengthen, which can keep your team alive, but the Strengthen synergizes with her passive, or she will counterattack when Strengthen is out there, so you can get a free double hitter if you place the Strengthen before the Fire Knight attacks your team, for example. So there you go. That should be the 7 sacreds. We did not get the Ugo, but like I mentioned, I don't really need copies of her, so it doesn't really matter. But let's see, double check the math in the Summon Rush, and yes, we are there. 3,500 points, exactly what we needed. So continue on with the fusion with the latest rare. And if you are curious where I am with the Fusion. I've done everything that is live so far, aside from Ice Golem that just went live this morning. But if we take a look here with that one, that's going to put me at 6 rares. So I already have one of the epics ready to go. Of course, I'm going to wait until next weekend for the champion chase to get my free 250 points. And the odds are quite high. It kind of depends on the timing of things. Maybe if I wait until Sunday, I might have 3 sets of the rare, so all 12 that I can fuse into this for 750 points in that champion chase. So we'll see. We'll kind of play that by ear, but that is the tentative plan. At least I will get 2 copies of the epic, and thus I will have 500 points in the champion chase. However, I also I did finish Empress this past week of Chimera, so I kind of want to summon him as well, and that's 1,000 points in a champion chase. So it's 2x ancient, so I kind of want to pull shards, so we'll kind of have to figure out how we want to do that. Maybe we'll just aim for a higher milestone than the bare minimum of the 3,000 and kind of get, the fusion epics, get Empress as well, and kind of go from there. But TBD on my exact plan for the champion chase. We'll kind of see as we get closer to that and see what the milestones are and whatnot. But yeah, that is going to do it for today's video. We're going to keep this one short and sweet. We are min-maxing the Summon Rush for the purpose of getting the rare, which was the goal from this particular pull session, the 7 Sacreds. We got a decent amount of epics that will be used for empowerment, so that is kind of what I wanted, and we, as expected, did not get a legendary, so we're on the cusp of Mercy, which is not perfectly optimal, at least for my perspective, on a future POGO event for Sacred. So hopefully there's something else in between now and the next POGO event, whenever that is. Obviously I have no information on that, but hopefully there's something else that involves Sacreds prior to that where we can get deeper into Mercy, and then we can try our chance at the double legendary. But as it stands right now, I'd probably skip the next POGO event if it happens to be in the near term. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're still pursuing the fusion despite knowing the milestones for the Summon and Rush. Did you go for just the rare, or did you go all the way out to the epic? And of course, let me know if you got anything good from your summons, whichever shard type that happened to be. As always, if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below as well if you are enjoying the content on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.